Hello everyone. So today I'm going to be guiding you through the image alias, the image nickname function within SpotMap to allow you to append different pieces of information to your image, rename them, and I'm also going to be going through the image editing function that we've got within the software as well, and various points where we can add notes. Now, I'm using the standard version of the software here, where we have a few places that we can include kind of image metadata, experimental metadata. Within the 21 CFR or GMP compliant version of the software, we have even greater levels of note taking and note adding at the project level. But this is just the standard version off the shelf. We still have a lot of that functionality baked in because it is designed to be used in QC and QA labs that might not require 21 CFR or GMP compliance. And as ever, you can get a free trial of our SpotMap software to try out with your own images within your own lab at our website and using the links in the description below. So without further ado, the first thing I'm going to guide you through is image aliases, image nicknames. Now, when you get your images from your scanner, be it a Cytiva Typhoon, an Azure Biosystems unit, a BioRad unit, whatever unit you might be using, whatever large format scanner you may be using, it's likely that you're going to get them in something like this. So we've got a date or a random string of numbers, and then we've got a CY5 channel and a CY3 channel. It's not hugely informative for a user, especially if someone that didn't run the experiment is the one doing the analysis, or if someone comes back to the experiment in 5, 6, 10 years time and they want to know what was being worked on. This is not going to help them. And this is especially prevalent in kind of long-term data storage required within QA labs, things like that. So within the software, we've actually built in the ability to change that from the original file name. You might want to keep the file name as it was. You might have on-site protocols that dictate how your file name should be saved. Something like date, operator, cell line, antibody batch number, something like that might need to be kept within the file name. But what we can do is add a nickname to the image to allow you to work on them much easier. So if I click on this drop down next to my images here, you'll see we get a context menu full of image specific features and functions. And what we want to do is set a nickname. So it can be anything. It can be, cell line 3, antibody titer 1,000, I don't know, whatever it might be that's prevalent or appropriate for your experiment. And you can see this changes the name here. Now, SpotMap is not just designed for 2 images. It can handle basically as many images as your computer can handle. Around 8 is where the performance starts to drop off, and I'm only using it on a laptop here, so I'm not going to attempt to try and open 8 large format images all at the same time. But yeah, the software has no hard limits. You can do what your hardware can support. And that's when being able to rename your images but not rename the file is going to be really, really useful if you're constantly switching between these different images, which ones you've got on display, which ones you haven't, things like that. Now, eagle-eyed viewers may have noticed that there was a separate section there below set nickname, which was notes. And this is the first section where you can start introducing notes to your experiment. While set nickname has, a small amount of room that you can input text in and the text will be displayed on the side, notes has a bit more room. So you can be a bit more freeform with the notes, and these notes will make it all the way through to, just turn off Grammarly here. Notes will make it all the way through to your reporting, which is really good if you want to include something that you want a supervisor to see that's going to be signed off within the project, or if you want to save something for posterity for many years into the future. So cell line 405, antibody 2 RL, batch number XYZ, SOP 13.1. Something like that. Something that kind of has links to your other documentation on site, might be linked somewhere within your LIMS system. Something that will allow you to rebuild the experiment if you ever needed to. So that's notes. They're kept with the report. It's all included within the project. It's all kept together. It's really neat. It's a really good way of adding notes to your experiment, or rather adding notes to your image. Now, if you see on the right-hand side here, we've got a separate, even larger notes box. And that is for notes, again, that will go into the report that are at more of a project level. So they may be things like the SOP, the operator, things like that. Now, we do have a comprehensive audit trail that I'll probably do a separate video on, built into the software, that does capture kind of things like operator and what settings we used and things like that. But the notes is more for the physical side of the experiment, how it was performed, when it was done, things like that, rather than the software analysis side of things. So that's another area that you can input information in. Of course, you can always use the annotation function and draw it directly on your gel, and then include what you might want to include on there as a reference. That's normally used for specific areas of the image rather than the experiment. So if something went wrong, you could point to a section and say, accidentally tore the gel, or accidentally touched it with bare hands and there's a fingerprint on the gel, something like that, to kind of explain that away. Again, it's all about building up the history of the project with a view to, if someone opened this project in 5 years, would they be able to understand it? And how can I include information that's going to help them understand it if I'm not available, if they can't just come and speak to me, or if I can't remember. So as promised, I also said I'd go through the inbuilt image editing function within SpotMap. So if I come back to my context menu and I go on to edit alongside my images, clearly in alignment, yes, you'll see that it opens a full-fledged image editor within the software. Now, this image editor does not edit the raw data files, they remain intact. Just like the nickname, this is kind of for use within the context of the experiment, but it doesn't change the original files. So what we've got here is everything that you could expect for, image editing within a project. We've got crop, we've got rotates, we've got translates, we've got inversions, we've got flips horizontal, flips left and right. By performing your edits within this image editor, rather than doing it within the image that came off the scanner, we can guarantee that we've preserved the metadata that's within the image. Now, this metadata is things like the wavelength it was scanned at, when it was scanned, the settings that we used on the scanner, the pixel depth, things like that. All this information that you wouldn't want to clear off, but may be accidentally removed by using other image editors that weren't made by TotalLab. So using something like PowerPoint or Photoshop, they're not scientific programs. They're not designed for handling scientific data or scientific images. So they may just go along and delete all your metadata, not thinking it's useful. But it is actually really useful and really important for the history of an experiment. So here at TotalLab, we've created this entire image editor built into the software itself, so you can do all of your edits within the software before you start doing your analysis, but without the fear that you might lose any crucial metadata. So we can guarantee that if you use our editor, you won't be disrupting the image metadata that we might need to process the image. And I think that's pretty much everything. We do have the ability to open a guide image. Now, this is semi-akin to alignment, but it allows you to change the transparency of the image on top and kind of rotate them over each other. It's not alignment per se, but it allows you to do like a really manual. This is just overlaying two images on top of each other. It's nowhere near the complexity of the algorithms that we use for alignment that allow you to shift different parts of the image in different directions by different amounts. That's a very different thing. It's a much more complicated algorithm that takes into account many more variables than simply sliding images over on top of each other. This was the way old 2D used to be done, and TotalLab really changed the game when we came out with our advanced algorithm for kind of warping and working in 3D with automatic alignment of spots. That's why we're so accurate, why we produce 2D software that doesn't have any missing values. That's how we're able to do that, because we kind of pioneered the research into that area of image analysis. But yeah, so those are the image nickname functions, the note addition functions, and the image editing functions that are built directly into our SpotMap software. As I mentioned at the beginning, if you're interested in trying out a free trial of the software, please check out the link in the description below, head on over to our website, drop us a message, speak to us, ask us about ask us about what we could do for your workflow and how we can help.